Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel, Bow and Arrow Tarot. Today we're going to get right into the weekly, the first weekly, December 1st to 7th for the sign of Taurus. Alright, Taurus, you're up next. And of course, I'm a Taurus rising, so I love these Taurus readings. And yeah, check your other placements, okay? But yeah, let's get right into it, Taurus. December is going to be an amazing month for a lot of us. So I'm very excited to see what romance angel messages you have this week. We're going to pull out your animal spirits, and then we're going to get right into your traditional tarot spread. So let's just see what it is for you this week, Taurus. First out we have, pay attention to red flags. All right. We have, you deserve love. And finances and career. So finances and career is a card that has been coming up quite a lot from the romance angel messages impacting our lives. It's really interesting because I've been saying this for quite some time, that there's been like a synergy between financial blessings and blessings in love and healing and wisdom coming in that are really sort of like combining in a lot of ways this December period. But of course, we won't know what this all entails for you until we get a little bit deeper into your reading. So, Taurus, let's pull out your animal spirits for the week. Now, animal spirits are really just descriptive of energies that are coming into our lives, that may be coming into our lives or becoming available to us, right? They can represent people that are coming into our lives, right? Their characteristics or their personality types, what they're resonating with. They can also indicate certain stages in our lives that we're coming into and the nature of that stage, the spirit, literally, of that stage, if you know what I mean. So let's get right into your animal spirits, all right? Here we are, straight out, we have the moth. All right, the moth, air energy, associated with hastiness, wishful thinking, the oyster. Wow, all right, water energy. And we have the cheetah. Beautiful. The cheetah, I love this card. And this card has been coming out a lot lately. And of course, it talks about absolute determination, purposeful, being purposeful, and just achieving, right? Just achieving a lot. Really amazing, amazing feats, basically, of achievement, astounding feats. Let's get right into it. So the moth. The moth is the air energy. It talks about, as I said, wishful thinking, being hasty. The moth is always sort of thinking the grass is greener on the other side. This is somebody who is very easily distracted by anything shiny and new, just like the moth. And I was saying in the other videos, in the Aries video, for those of you who are getting into tarot and things like that and you want to understand animal spirits, the best way to learn and understand animal spirits is to look at their behavior in the wild. What is their natural behavior, right? The moth is always attracted to light, right? It's the moths that fly up into the fire, fly up into the light bulb, and then they get zapped. You know what I'm saying? And so this is the energy. It's an air element creature, and it's the feeling of never really staying long enough to get through the tough times. Some of you Taurus may be dealing with someone like that. I find it hard to believe that that would be you, because Taurus is such a hard worker and such a sort of determined person. You may be resonating with this because, you aren't just your sun sign, Taurus. You're a lot of other things apart from your astrological placements. But if you are resonating with this, remember that really important things they take work, right? And you do know this, Taurus. If you're dealing with somebody who's resonating with moth energy, well then, oftentimes I find with this type of personality that there's really not much you can do for them. They have to learn the hard lesson themselves, because they just aren't, generally these people are not willing to listen, right? They are just going to follow this sort of desire to have it easy until they eventually have enough hard lessons that they realize trying to have it easy is actually the hardest thing that they will ever do. So the oyster is a water animal, and the oyster is associated with the great keeper of secrets. hidden, hidden treasures, hidden truths. The oyster is just associated with things that we keep to ourselves. It could be time for you to sort of show the world who you truly are. You could be dealing with somebody who's very closed off emotionally. They're very secretive, right? Yeah, one of the energies of the oyster is also just that, oftentimes oyster individuals have talents and abilities that they really take for granted, right? And they really don't allow these abilities to bubble to the surface for whatever reason. It could be a sense of just protecting themselves, or they're being too sensitive about possible criticism, right? But at some point or another, you have to let the true you out. One of the other things that's really associated with the oyster also is patience, right? The oyster is one of these really sort of like creatures that is extremely patient. They are able to their determination is unmatched, right? And oftentimes what makes someone absolutely tenacious is an ability to be patient and to ride something through at times when you need to. So the oyster is also one of these individuals who is, their determination is very much unmatched, right? Their determination, and so their ability to achieve things is unmatched. But again, they tend to be withdrawn, and they can tend to sort of pull back from others and be unwilling to give of themselves, be unwilling to give of some of their deeper sort of qualities. Again, I think it is for fear of, being hurt, right? For fear of, in some way being criticized or ridiculed in some way. But it's a very unusual animal spirit in a lot of ways, the oyster. But if anything, it is one of these cards that tells us it's time for us to really sort of be more open with ourselves, have less fear about showing who we are and showing some of our inner talents, right? And also making sure not to be sort of overly critical or overly, set in your ways, right? Which is this energy when it is sort of out of sync or in a sort of negative space. Now the cheetah. The cheetah is really, really strong fire energy. It is the cheetah that sort of radiates the sun from within. The cheetah is also one of these animals, different than the oyster. The oyster has that still patience where it can just hold on, literally like an oyster does. It takes a long time to create a pearl and a lot of patience, right? And so it can create beautiful things, but the cheetah is fire, and it is this momentum and this forward motion that is unmatched with the cheetah. These are individuals who are generally highly ambitious and high achievers. These are high achievers. These are people who really when they put their minds to something, they achieve it. And oftentimes when people are around them, they're really sort of awe-inspired. Because this is the person that you're around that went after something and actually did it. You know how many times you talk to people and it's like, they talk about a lot of things they want to do, a lot of things they've tried to do, a lot of things they've wanted to do, but very few people seem to discuss very many successes, right? Why? It's not because they don't have what it takes to be successful, but because most people do not have the drive or the determination. They don't have the ability to be patient. They don't, you know what I mean? Everything that it takes, I'm not saying this as a slight. I'm saying this as just to be real with you, when everyone has very, very lofty ideas about what they want to do with their lives. And, oh, yeah, I'm going to have this great career, or I'm going to have this great business and blah, blah, blah. But, it's a rare sort of cheetah type individual that you come across who you talk to, and they're like, yeah, I had a couple of stores. Yeah, I opened a couple of stores, sold them off, made some money, got into something else. When they talk, and it's not just they're talking bullshit. It's like, for a fact that this is true. This person, they have a good reputation. We're not talking about somebody who's telling stories here, right? We're talking about a real person, an individual who really is just one of these kind of very, very unique, very, very rare people that absolutely goes after life with such sort of fire and determination and wisdom. that they very rarely fail at anything. Or even if they don't achieve it the way they set out to achieve it, it is an achievement because whatever they end up with ends up being wonderful. All right, guys, I really surely hope, Taurus, that a lot of you are probably resonating with this energy. It's coming out over finances and career, and so some of you may be really achieving the impossible right now, and everybody else around you is just looking at you like, damn, look at Taurus go, you know? All right, let's pull out 4 to 6 of your forecast for the week, Taurus. And my regulars know how this goes. We're going to pull out 3 cards for each forecast. You know, I pull out 4 to 6 to look at different scenarios for the week rather than just one. The first card is your energy. The second card is the energy that meets you. And the third card is the outcome. Very simple, straightforward. So let's get right into it. All right, Taurus, your first forecast for the week is Justice, 4 of Pentacles, and King of Swords. So you come into the week with Justice energy, which is a feeling of wanting to get back into balance in a particular area of your life. Right? Justice talks about really being sort of avoiding extremes, right? Avoiding extremes, trying to maintain balance. Some of you may indeed be waiting for a judgment in court. Sometimes when justice comes in, it does indeed mean that you're waiting for some kind of rendering or judgment or agreement to come in. But for the most part, this is all to work towards a rebalancing. So a lot of times when we talk about an agreement or some sort of actual business decision or move happening, right, it is for the rectifying of a situation that is out of balance. This is why we call it justice, because justice is brought in, right, literally. And so this would not be a case that you lose if you're supposed to win. You know what I'm saying? So generally justice indicates that you have decisions and cases or things happening that come into your life that should favor you because you know, if something was if an injustice was done to you or something was out of balance, then it should be in your favor. And this is a lot of times what justice brings in as well. It brings in the blessing of a rebalancing in some kind of way, and oftentimes in a very official way as well. So you come into this week with this energy, but you're met with a 4 of Pentacles, which is a fear of threat to your finances. So some of you may be dealing with something this week that you feel like is you know, that is going to threaten your business or your career, you know, threatens your financial stability in some ways. 4 of Pentacles can also talk about real miserly, sort of greedy behavior, right? But this really comes out of, this behavior is just a side note. It's really a symptom of the deeper essence of 4 of Pentacles, which is when we feel our livelihood is being threatened. Whether it is rational or irrational, when we feel like, you know, our money is being threatened or we're about to lose it or somebody's about to take it, then we act in a certain way, right? We begin to pull back, hold on, not share as much, right? And all of that. But this is the energy that you're met with this week. Something happens that makes you feel that way. You do, however, round out the week with a King of Swords. And I think that some of you are going to be meeting with somebody who is going to help you through this scenario. This could be like a court case. You could be getting, you know, maybe sued or going to court for something, or somebody has started some kind of action and you're finding yourself in the system or in the legal system in some kind of way, and it's something that's going to impact your money. But this week, this King of Swords very clearly comes in. And King of Swords is definitely somebody who will be associated with a lawyer, right? An advocate, a lawyer, someone who gives advice or mediates, right? This is very King of Swords energy. You know, King of Swords lays down the rules, and he also deals out the punishment, right? He's very honest and fair. His sword is meant to be the sword of truth. So in a lot of ways, for you, Taurus, some of you are definitely going to be dealing with some kind of financial issue, but keep your head up because you're going to be dealing with somebody at the end of the week that has everything you need to help you through this scenario. Full energy. Ace of Pentacles and 9 of Pentacles. Some of you are starting a new chapter in your life, Taurus, and this week it begins. It all begins this week, the real beginning of it. Even if you've been working towards it the last few weeks or perhaps the last few months even, and you've been seeing signs of it, it is this week where you realize you've arrived. Right? You absolutely feel incredible. You've also made a quantum leap up. Remember, the Fool is the beginner. We always talk about the Fool. Many times people talk about the Fool in a sense of, He's making this sort of leap of faith. Yes, he's making a leap of faith, but actually the Fool is more what we talk about. That is not, it isn't so much that he has a leap of faith, but he makes a quantum leap in his understanding, right? The Fool cannot move on to another stage until he is done with one stage of his life. This is the nature of starting a new stage. But you can't be done with one stage in your life unless you've learned all of the lessons. Learning lessons in life and getting something out of the different paths and stages in your life, these are quantum leaps in understanding. These are not measurable in any sort of classical or linear way. These are quantum leaps. When we talk about a quantum leap is something that increases everything on all levels, right? It reverberates out. It's not just an increase in one thing. It's an increase in it's a multi-dimensional increase, right? That's a quantum leap. And it is huge. And the effect of it is also much more than the leap itself, if you know what I mean. This is what makes it a quantum leap. And so with the Fool, this is what we have when we go from one stage to the next. You learn something, you make this huge leap, but because you're starting a new stage, you become the Fool again. And this is the nature of the Fool card in the tarot, to always remind us that we are always the student going up and down the tree of life. You know, just because we've mastered one thing does not mean that we don't always, we always remain a student, because there's always something else to learn. However, this is something you should understand when the Fool card comes in, that this is not just about making a new beginning, but this is also about having gone through a period in your life where you've really learned a huge life lesson. Take that in. This week you're met with Ace of Cups and this absolutely golden opportunity. Whether you may have already had this golden opportunity before and been working towards it, or the the inkling or the sign of it is coming in this week for you. And you round off the week with a 9 of Pentacles, which is rewards immediately start to come in. This is why for some of you, I'm saying you may have been working towards this objective already for a few months, but it's this week that it kind of presents itself as, yes, it is a golden opportunity, and boom, right away here are the rewards. Boom, 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 right? You may not have even known that it was a golden opportunity. The reason why I say this is because you end the week off right away with the 9 of Pentacles. So that's a very rapid going from the Fool into a new venture that promises to be really fortuitous, and right away seeing the signs of rewards. And so in this way, this Ace of Pentacles could very much represent something you've been working on for quite some time. But it isn't until now that what you've been working on presents itself as truly being the right opportunity, the golden opportunity. Yes, you took it a while back, but it isn't until now that you get that reaffirmation. And as soon as you get the reaffirmation, the rewards start coming into you. Right? Because, of course, you've been working on this for quite some time. Some of you may have a business that goes viral that you never thought would go viral. Just all of a sudden it goes viral. Or you may have a career path that you had no idea was going to ship you around the world, and all of a sudden you get a contract to go someplace else and work, but along with that contract is a huge boost of finance. It's something, you know what I mean? It's going to be for some of you, it'll be something you've been working on, but it'll be unexpected that what you were working on would bring so many rewards so quickly. 9 of Wands, Page of Pentacles, and an Ace of Wands. Again, some of you are ending and looking back on a really difficult period. This most recent stage for some of you has really been a pain in the ass. You've been dealing with a lot of burdens, a lot of people perhaps maybe who were having a lot of hang-ups, and you had to deal with them, because I don't feel like this energy is so much of your own making. But in any case, you have a 9 of Wands, and you're just like, you know what? I'm coming to the end of this stage, right? But I just need a little bit more energy. You realize what you've been through, and you realize perhaps some of the mistakes you've made along the way. You come into this week with a Page of Pentacles, which is somebody comes to you, I believe, who has a real practical conversation with you about business, or a business idea, right? A Taurus, and you round off the week very quickly being very passionate about this and working on a very great new sort of business move that is creative, a very creative sort of project or venture, but it is definitely related to your career or to your business. And this is certainly coming right out of a difficult period most recently. I think maybe, again, this is just, I mean, it's very straightforward. This is one of these blessings coming in. For some of you Taurus, you're coming out of a tough period where you're, it was a period of a lot of burdens and responsibilities. There could have been some financial responsibilities. You could have been dealing with some relationship issues that were like, oh, fuck, just get out of my life. You know what I mean? It's just like this kind of like, just hassles, not anything lingering, but you're looking back and it's just like, oh, I just can't wait. I'm ready to put a door between, or a wall or whatever between me and that part. I'm done with it, right? I'm ready to put a line under it and move on. But you are kind of looking back like, damn, And this week, this new sort of Page of Pentacles, this person who comes into you with a really practical idea. It's really kind of like simple, but it's something that you really feel good about. It's just one of your blessings coming in for December. 2 of Swords, 5 of Swords, and 8 of Pentacles. Some of you come into this week feeling like you have to make a decision. And I think the decision has been between either something is going on with somebody with a power dynamic, right? But you're coming into this week feeling like, okay, what do? I have to make a decision, but it's an impossible decision. It may be a feeling like, I want to stay at my job, but I can only stay at my job if I have to deal with this power dynamic. So the only choice I have is staying at my job and dealing with this power dynamic, or I have to leave my job. Both of them are impossible. This is what I mean by impossible decision. This is just an example. Because you love your job so much, but you can't see how you could stay there and deal with this power dynamic. Your other choice is to leave the job. You can't possibly want to, you don't want to leave your job. You can't possibly leave it. You've worked too hard for it. It's a job you love. And damn it, why should you leave your job because of this power dynamic? This is the attitude I feel like some of you are having to come into the week with. You met with the power dynamic indeed, and so you know what you choose to do. 5 of Swords is defeat, but it's defeat and acquiescence in a sense that you take the high road, right? So 2 of Swords is very much about a balance. 2 of Swords talks about balance. When you are given an impossible decision, where you just can't decide between the two options, because neither one of them is really a good option at all, right? You must find the third option, which is balance. And ultimately, this character, she goes through all these things, she goes inside of herself, calms herself to try to decide between the two swords. She still can't do it. And ultimately, once she realizes it's about the balance between the two, then she can move forward. And so here, it's interesting. You have this power struggle with somebody, but they're real sort of nefarious. They're real sort of like underhanded. They gossip. And I think for a little while, you may have been getting caught up in it, right? Because this battle that these people have with this person, the only way you can battle with them is if you battle on their terms. They're not playing fairly, so then you can't play fairly with them either, right? So a lot of times, you can find yourself dealing with somebody who's like this, and before you know it, you're acting the same way because they've pushed your buttons. You're like, well, I had to do that because they did this. No, you didn't. You know what I mean? You have to pull yourself back. And 5 of Swords talks about that. These people have walked away and discussed. They said, no, hang on a second. I'd rather be defeated than to sort of lower myself to your tactics. And ultimately, it's a hollow victory. Because, this person is underhanded. But this is the card for defeat, but it's not, I say this to explain that it's not a real defeat. It's a defeat when you take the high road for your own betterment. And this is your option with this. This is an example of an option or a third option of balance, where you say, well, hang on a second. I can stay at my job and just choose to leave this power dynamic behind. Because you can't, you know what I mean? Nobody can argue with somebody who's ignoring them or just not responding. You know what I mean? This idea that we're a victim is false. If somebody, there is always some way that you can engage somebody where they know that there's no need for this. There's nothing, you know what I mean? Or else they make themselves look really ridiculous. Or their behavior would be outwardly psychotic, and then they end up losing their job and get fired. Anyway, that can happen. That's an extreme. But what I'm saying is that if you don't engage in this behavior, then it can't. You know what I'm saying? You have to really take a hard, long look at yourself. And you round the week off with an 8 of Pentacles, which is being you have boundaries. 8 is the number for boundaries. So now all of a sudden, look, he's happy, he's working, right? He's working away. 8 is the number for boundaries when you need to be focused to perfect something. But here I feel very strongly that you realize you have to just act, concede defeat, let them win their hollow victory, and then what you do is you set up certain boundaries so that this power dynamic can never start again. They can never get, if they don't, if you enforce your boundaries, then people can't get in far enough to even engage you like this. This is a level of engagement that we get into when we've allowed somebody to cross boundaries with us, right? So 8 of Pentacles is the lesson of how to deal with that. You have to enforce your boundaries at work. There's no need for anybody to discuss anything with you unless it's work related, and that doesn't need to be with any kind of, you know what I mean? So there is always boundaries that you can set in place for a weird dynamic at work. It's just a lot of people who are caught up in that. They're quickly caught up in the ego and the pride, and I've been here for 30 years too, and I know, you know what I mean? And you get so caught up in that. Before you know it, you're acting just like the asshole that's been engaging you. And you really have to look at that and face up to that and put those boundaries in place so you can stop being sort of like pulled down to their level. This is the last one. Queen of Pentacles, the Hermit, and Ace of Cups. Wow. Some of you certainly have been working very, very hard on your career. You come into the work just knuckling down, working on your career. You're not really thinking about anything, but you bump into a hermit. And it's like the both of you have found each other, Taurus. You've been working away. They've been working away spiritually. I feel this very strongly. This is an individual that comes into your life that is very sort of like, very much resonating with your type of energy in the sense that you're doing your own thing, Taurus. This is for a Taurus who's right now just working on their business, their career, their life, right? That's their baby, right? And they're not really concerned with anybody else around. Yeah, you have friends and you're socializing. I'm not saying that you're isolated, but I'm just saying that you're really kind of sort of doing your own thing, and you really bump into a hermit with someone this week who is also resonating with that strong sort of really independent single, but very spiritual, independent, and sort of not running with the crowd, but really walking their own path. You guys come together, and it's a really amazing love connection. You meet with somebody who's very simpatico to you. I don't even know what else to say, Taurus. This is going to be a real sort of like, meeting someone who, not only do you like find a love connection with this person, but this person is finally someone who is at your level. Can be a lot of times that Taurus puts up with people who aren't really at their level or really has nothing to teach them, or they're too arrogant. You know what I mean? It's just, I'm a Taurus rising, so it's like very difficult to come across people who genuinely can exchange with you, right? But here with this hermit, you find this person is very spiritually elevated. They get you. They understand you on a spiritual level. They're strong. They're not weak. They've done a lot of self-improvement. This is the person who's worked on themselves, but they're walking this singular path because nowadays life is rough and there's a lot of weirdos out there. And, where are the fish in the sea? The fish in the sea are where all the other animals that are being sort of destroyed in the planet are. There are no fish in it. You know what I'm saying? There aren't that many fish in the sea when we talk about finding somebody who's on your level, who's in, you know what I mean? It's difficult. And so I just use that as a metaphor. The seas are dying, the oceans are dying, we're polluting them. A lot of society is very difficult to deal with because a lot of society is dealing with really, really heavy toxic issues. But here you find somebody who doesn't have that, right? Here you find somebody who's really worked on themselves as a really rare person. I want to say resonating with oyster energy very strongly. Yes, indeed. Someone who has definitely beautiful hidden talents that right off the bat, there's something special about them, but they do keep it very, very hidden. Still, nevertheless, you guys make a love connection. All right, Taurus, I am going to call it. This is your December 1st to the 7th reading. I do hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please like, subscribe, and share. Don't forget to hit the bell. Now, somebody asked about the bell. When you hit the bell, you have a choice. You have a choice of getting notified for the entire channel or just getting notified. And I think that the way that it works is that if you're watching a video about Taurus, a Taurus weekly video, and you hit the bell and you just choose to get notified on that video, it'll be like similar videos, right? So videos with Taurus or weekly you may get notified on similar videos. If you choose for the channel, then you'll get notified on all the videos that are uploaded. I think that's how it goes. Let me know in the comment box if you tried it out and it worked or it didn't work. But for right now, Taurus, have a wonderful week. I love you so, so much. And take care. I'll see you next week. Bye-bye now.